So did you notice anything in today's reading? Or I guess what I would say is, did you notice what's not in today's reading?
The reading for Palm Sunday?
Palms.
There's no palms.
Exactly. There's no palms. We have 4 Gospels that tell us the story of Jesus' life, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And they don't all share the same details, right? The other 3 all mention palms, and I think I hear them in my head when I read Luke's message. I actually was surprised this week. Be like, oh wait, there are no palms in the reading. No leafy branches, no waving those things. They put cloaks on. We could call it Cloak Sunday. But
Cloak Sunday, it just does not have the same ring to it, right. No.
And all 4 Gospels tell us how Jesus comes to be on a donkey, and they don't all agree on that as well. So we're going to look closely at what Luke says. It says that Jesus sent 2 of his disciples and said, "Go into the village ahead of you, and there you will find tied up a colt that has never been ridden. Untie it and bring it here." There's a picture of that on the front of your bulletin. There's 2 disciples and a donkey, and I'm assuming the owner of the donkey up above. And I love the way one of the disciples is pointing over this way, like, we want to bring this over there. Right?
We're going to take that donkey.
That's right.
We've heard the story so often that we don't get the strangeness of it. So I want you to imagine this story involving you, and it happened yesterday. Imagine you have that the Colt is the new car, the new Toyota Prius hybrid that you just bought, and it's parked out in front of your home. It's shiny. It still has that new car smell, and you can't wait to take your first drive in it because it's a plug-in hybrid. And you put it in. You waited 24 hours to fill it all up. You're ready to go. You look out your front window, and there's 2 people out there going bloop, 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 opening up your car and getting ready to go for a drive. Now, what's your first response going to be? Will it be, oh, go have a good drive. Bring it back when you're done. No, it's like, hey, that's my new car. What are you doing? And when they assure me, oh, the master needs it, I'm not going to automatically go, yeah, no problem, you go ahead. So how does the owner of this new car, Colt, that's never been ridden, still has that new donkey smell, how does he let that go so easily? Luke does not tell us, but scholars say, and we suspect, that this particular donkey owner is one of the people whom Luke calls the multitude of disciples that are already in Jerusalem. Someone who had sometime in the past heard about Jesus, made the trek up to the sticks up in Galilee, and heard Jesus preach, witnessed or experienced his healing touch. And they've shared the stories in Jerusalem. And they've heard he's coming into town for Pesach, for the Passover. And they are waiting for him. They have planned a Palm Sunday protest parade to announce to the whole city Jesus' radical message of love and grace and forgiveness and care for the poor, for women, for the sick, for the disabled, for the marginalized, for the alien, for the outsider.
So when these Galilean disciples say, the master needs it, it's a kind of code language, really, that's been arranged by the Jerusalem disciples who are part of this new revolution of love. So the owner of the colt hears that and knows that he's to give this because it will be used by Jesus. Which makes you wonder, why code language? Well, if you're creating a revolution of love in the face of a violent, power-hungry, paranoid empire that's bent on punishing anyone who isn't sufficiently loyal.
You're talking about Rome, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Just checking.
It's subversive. It's dangerous. You don't want to be too public about it. You need to be subtle. So a phrase like, the master needs it, is used because it really only means something to the people who are in the know, who are in the love revolution. And I wonder, keeping this in the present tense maybe, after lending the donkey, did that owner text all their friends in Jerusalem on Signal, because, it's encrypted end to end? The master's coming to town. Rally at noon at the gate near the Mount of Olives. Be there. So that when Jesus on the colt rides up to town with all of his disciples, there's already a crowd waiting with handmade cardboard signs saying, love and justice, and blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord, and love God and love your neighbor as yourself. Or maybe I'm getting ahead of myself.
They welcomed him, according to Luke, with cheers and cloaks thrown down to make a path for the donkey to travel. They are singing with all their might to welcome Jesus in, to cheer for him, to cheer for his radical message. Not a message of political power, but a message of peace. And not Caesar's Roman peace, peace at the point of a sword, but God's peace, the deep shalom of mercy and love. Blessed is this servant king. Blessed is this way of living together in harmony, in love, in God's ways of grace and justice for all. Of course, grace and justice for all are completely at odds with the ways of empire, which, like all empires, past, present, and future, if we still have them, are about fear and about control. Governor Pilate, the symbol of Caesar's empire in Judea, rides into town on the eve of Passover on a war horse, not a donkey, surrounded by soldiers, not peasants. Pilate is all about brute strength and bullying threats of violence, including crucifixion, to anyone who does not toe the line. Cross him, crucifixion says, and you will be next on the enemies list.
So no wonder the Pharisees get nervous about this crowd proclaiming Jesus as the king. I think they're scared. What if Pilate hears? What if word gets back to Rome and Caesar hears what's going on in Jerusalem? They know he won't take kindly to this. In the process of removing this threat, Caesar may decide to remove all of Jerusalem, just for good measure. It's dangerous, Jesus, they're saying. Tell your followers to hush, capitulate, obey in advance.
Jesus' reply to the Pharisees is as triumphant as the crowd's song. He tells them, if these were silent, if the people were silent, the very stones would shout out. Do y'all have the theme from Jesus Christ Superstar going on in your head right now? The way that God has created the world to be, a way of harmony and life, is baked into the very earth, into the universe itself. Even the stones give witness to the goodness, mercy, and equity of God. You might try to silence it, erase it, but there's no stopping it. As Psalm 19 says, the heavens are telling the glory of God, and the firmament declares God's handiwork. All creation witnesses to God's glory. And we humans, we're called to witness as well with everything that God has given us. with our voices, our hearts, our minds, our relationships, our hands, with all our lives. Even if sometimes we have to do it in code language, we are witnesses to God's love.
So this morning, it is our delight and our honor to welcome Alana Beverly Foro in baptism. And as a community of faith, we all witness to the freedom and the grace and the love that we have experienced in Jesus. And we celebrate how we have been formed by that freedom and grace and love, and how it continues to transform us into God's people in ministry to a broken world. And so we joined with Aidan and Lauren to enfold Alana in that same grace and love, and we promise to do that all her life long until she gets to know God's love for herself, and she can make those decisions as she gets older. Make no mistake, this morning we welcome Alana into a subversive way of living, because a life of freedom and grace always contradicts the messages of empire. We welcome her into a love that envelops her and that reaches out to all her neighbors, no exceptions. We welcome her into a life of justice and radical trust in God's ways all of her life.
We welcome Alana into a Palm Sunday parade that extends back almost 2,000 years, starting with that motley collection of disciples and followers at a gate in Jerusalem, waving palms or throwing cloaks and shouting praises as a witness to love and a witness against the powers and principalities of fear and violence and hatred and empire. That parade in this century or the last century has included Martin King and Mahatma Gandhi, John Lewis, Fannie Lou Hamer, Mother Jones, and a billion other less well-known followers of love and justice over the last 2,000 years. And today it includes Lauren and Aidan and each of us at Harvard-Epworth Church. Together we shout in one way or another, "Blessed is the one who comes in the name of our God."
And together we walk into Holy Week. It will not be an easy week. Together we walk toward the cross on Friday, because sometimes living a life of love is costly, especially when you run up against the empire. And we will continue to love,
because we know how the story ends.